Yo, when I spit bars in a raid, man, I go hard like Santan.
Hello there. Welcome to another New Spurs Order podcast. I'll be your host for this one once again, X-Pac. And soon I'll be joined by some other co-hosts. First up is Topes. How you doing, mate?
Mate, I'm going through it, man. I've lost my rag like 1,000 times over the past 24 hours, and I see how you're taking a piss out of me for my Antu tweet the other day as well. But thanks for having good banter. Yeah, cool. Thanks.
That's okay.
I just want you to know as well. That every single person who screenshotted my shit yesterday before I deleted that tweet, I've gone through a painstaking process of blocking so many people. I've blocked like 15 people already. So cool. If you want to get on my bad side, come. It's cool. I can block you too. It's all cool. It's all good. Yeah, cool.
How quickly after that tweet went up did you realize and delete it? Just
bro, like maybe like a minute after, and then before I realized, too late.
Blood.
That tweet was literally only up for like a minute or two, and that was what came of it. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Papa Blankson's asking how you are as well. We're just a very considerate bunch over here. We've got a nice tight-knit fan base, and we just want to hope you're okay. Yao, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. Great intro. I'm sorry. But Toby's head has been kettled all day. I don't think people understand how kettled. His head has been in the clouds of Pluto. But it's fine, like we're going to discuss things today. I think there's some positive news because I think we're about to shag over United, which is good times.
Yeah, we'll probably end up getting transfer news while we're recording and streaming this, but that's all good. Very active. And we've obviously got a lot to talk about as well. So obviously we've got 2 games to cover. We played Bournemouth on the weekend. To start off on a little bit more of a lighter note. Tobes, how do you think that game kind of started out? To like first phases of the game coming into it, all we really knew about Bournemouth was, okay, they're a tidy side. They press what they're aiming to press quite a lot. Were you worried about this fixture at all? And yeah, how do you think we dealt with it?
I thought we dealt with it quite well, to be honest. I knew they were trying to change their style with Areola, but I still thought they would be a little bit more conservative because of the style that we were trying to play and the quality of players that we had. But credit to them, they were really adventurous in their press. They really tried to press us high. They really tried to disrupt our rhythm. But I felt as time wore on in the first half, probably around, I'd say from minute 5 onwards, we started to take control of the game. Maddison dropping deep and just pulling strings. Basuma being Basuma. Van der Ven and Romero quite comfy to when it came to playing out from the back. So was Romero. So was Vicario as well. I thought we handled the challenge quite well. And to be honest, even though there was a bit of turbulence in the second half where they did come into the game and it looked like, like they were in the ascendancy, we were in control for most of it. I'll be real, we were in control for most of it. And in the end of the day, I felt like we had created enough chances to have made that even more of an embarrassing scoreline. Or sorry, we created enough chances to have made that an embarrassing scoreline for Bournemouth. But I'll take the 2-0 professional win.
Yeah, for sure. I was impressed by how quickly we were starting to attack. Or maybe I feel like Bournemouth's press probably led to that and kind of forced us to play a bit quicker than maybe we were used to. Semenyo, like Papa Blankson said, was causing us a lot of problems. Looked really adventurous throughout the game, but yeah, I felt like we dealt with him quite well, especially Mickey. Top performance from him. Richarlison, I thought like he had much better movement in that first half. And honestly, I feel like we had a bunch of good chances. It really actually felt like we could see a goal coming from somewhere before we actually scored it. And that was a change, I guess, from the first two games. Yeah, like how did you feel like we did in the lead up to and scoring that first goal, given that midfield composition?
No, I felt our play in the first half was relatively good. There was some moments that Bournemouth had that you could say was slightly dangerous, but I was very impressed with Mickey in that first half, especially because our line is like high. Like I think people need to like really, especially Spurs fans, they need to really take on board that our line is really, really high. And so the fact that these defenders are capable of like recovering fast and getting back into shape very quickly is a good thing. What I will say about the chances that we did create is I did feel a goal was coming. I did feel Maddison did pull the strings in the first half alongside Basuma, and Sarr done some tidy work in that midfield. The one chance I'm going to highlight the most frustrated me. I think it was after we'd already taken the lead was Richarlison's one. Ball's come in, but he's taken it perfect. He's chopped the defender. If I'm being honest with you, I don't even think he should have chopped the defender. I honestly felt like get out your feet fast, have a shot. If it gets blocked, it gets blocked, you know, but he chopped the defender and then just lost his feet. Like, how unlucky are you? Like, I don't understand this. However, later on in that first half, there was another play where, again, it's a Maddison pass. Porro this time, he's got to throw his life at that. I don't care what anyone said. Stretch, get that ball on the top of your toe and try and get a strike off or slide and go in for a shot. Like, there's got to be some ingenuity in like the way these players are shooting. However, the goal scored by Maddison, quality. Absolutely quality, bruv. Porro passes it in. Basuma gets TV moved. I was like, yeah, safe. Yeah. Man gave it to Sarr. Sarr said, it's all right. I see Richarlison. And I saw the Bournemouth players see Richarlison and think, yeah, he's going to just shift it to Richarlison. Just put it through the gates. Maddison didn't even need to touch it. Faint touch. Wow. Beautiful movement. What made me very happy is that we were, not long after that goal, we also like defended very well, you know, because obviously after a team scores, it's very important that, you know, you keep your heads up and you focus on not allowing the opponents to, you know, have their little moment of momentum as the game goes on. The second half, I didn't like how we started. It was a bit annoying, if I'm being honest with you. We allowed Bournemouth to get into the game. But once we resumed control, I was confident. And it was a very professional win.
Nice. And yeah, like you said, like going into that second half, we kind of got suffocated a bit. Like Bournemouth came out with this new energy and we couldn't really deal with it. I felt like Sarr got overran a little bit. And then I was so pissed with how Richarlison obviously started that second half as well, because I felt like he had a first half which wasn't like great, but it was good enough to build on. I thought, like, carry on doing those basics well and your reward may come, but just that petulance where he had an easy giveaway. Well, a couple of times he got pressed quite easily when we tried to get the ball up quickly and he lost it. Then there was a moment where he lost his footing and then literally like 3 long seconds later, he's still on the floor. Bournemouth player comes back past him and he just puts a little toe out, a little petulant toe just to get a yellow card. And I'm like, And then he lost out to another challenge. His head just dropped. I could just see his head dropped and it was just Sulk City. And then we had a promising counter-attack when Richarlison dropped a little bit deeper than he usually does. And he picked the ball up in a really good position, to be fair. Like, it was a good decision to drop where he did. Started off the counter-attack and he had Maddison just screaming for the ball to his left, like literally 2-3 yards away in acres of space as well. He could have played in a runner afterwards quite easily, and then Richarlison took another 2 touches, then went to pass it or kind of touch it the other way, and then just went straight into a Bournemouth player, and the move just broke down. And I immediately was just like, okay, Ange might need to hook him here, and he actually did. But no, Tobes, how did you feel like that kind of second half started, and kind of what Ange did to get us?
So I think for me, I agree with your assessment and Yao's assessment on how the second half started. I felt like Bournemouth really was super aggressive with us, and we were turning over the ball more than we did in the first half. I felt like Sarr was caught in possession once or twice. Basuma was caught in possession once or twice. I felt like Sarr's influence in the game was starting to fade. I feel like it was fatigue, and he just got sloppier as the game went by, right? And it was clear to see that they were building up momentum. Semenyo was really in the game, and I felt that we definitely needed to make a change. Otherwise, it could end up in a position where Bournemouth equalize and then it's squeaky bum time. So for me, I was really happy to see Ange Postecoglou make those changes that he did, right? He made 2 changes, on the 59th and 60th minute, right? Very early changes in comparison to his predecessors, right? Conte's not making changes until around minute 70 onwards, right? Neither is Stellini. So for him to make those changes, and the changes he made as well, Perisic coming on, a calmer head out on the wide. You could then put Son through the middle, a calmer head than Richarlison at the point in time, and then Højbjerg coming on for Sarr. Højbjerg is obviously not as adventurous as Sarr. It's not going to venture forward as much as Sarr in his runs and his decision making. But what he is going to do is he's going to be safe. That's what he knows best. He's going to be safe with the ball. And I felt like that's what we needed at the time. And when those 2 subs came on, it completely put the game back into our control, right? We were able to control the ball a lot better, and we were able to take the sting out of Bournemouth's momentum. So for me, that was really good management from Ange Postecoglou there. And yeah, man, he deserves props for that, because I felt like that could have been a situation where the game could have been lost, despite the good play we had in the first half. And even when it was a basketball game, it was good for him to actually sort of see that and make the changes accordingly.
Yeah, exactly that. Not just taking off Richarlison, but to bring on Højbjerg at that time. Like, I know Yao will probably disagree with this, but I don't mind Højbjerg as an 8. I don't mind Højbjerg as an 8, especially when you've got Bissouma playing as well as he is, not just on the ball, but covering ground off it, being disciplined in that 6th position. Like, it kind of gives Højbjerg that kind of platform to take more risks, which he just naturally does anyway. Not with the ball as much, but more with his positioning. But as an 8, he seemed fine. He steadied the ship. He had a few kind of loose moments, but for the most part, like, he was fine. He was fine. He actually won the ball in crucial positions a fair few times as well. So yeah, I rate that contribution and cameo from Højbjerg. And obviously with Son moving to 9, I think we saw more fluidity straight away. Like, we saw Perisic obviously making his contribution as well, beating his man regularly. He had a good contribution for the second goal, just dropping into just to receive the ball and interchanging with Udogie, who was excellent. Got maximum bonus points for my FPL as well, so shout out Destiny. And yeah, like, that whole interchanging movement was a high contributor to our second goal, and Kulusevski obviously ended up putting away a really nicely worked move, which was just another slide rule finish. And yeah, I want to come to you for our second goal scorer as well, just because of his performance overall. We've been a bit critical of him over the past period which followed the World Cup, and I felt like he actually had his man isolated a lot. just through the platform that the team gave him. But I mean, how do you feel like he performed in general?
I think it was just a decent performance. The goal obviously boosted it, which is not something I would really focus on, because I even said in the group that I feel like since he's come back from the injury, he's been a bit hesitant to kind of take on his opponent. And so when he is in, very attacking, very, fretful situations, he either looks for the easier pass or cuts it back. I think that's more due to the previous manager coaching his threat out of him. But given time, I think he can get back to that dangerous winger we saw when he first arrived in the Premier League. And I also think he's trying to get that confidence back. So the goal, in my eyes, should do him a world of good, because it was great movement. And that's why I was less critical of him. I mean, the front three, they had moments in that game, but of the front three, I felt he didn't do too much wrong. But what he did do wrong was he didn't take enough risk. And I think that's what would have got a lot of fans off his case had he, been willing to take, his opponent down to the byline, try get a crossing, cut back, whip one in with his left, get a few shots off. I think people would have got off his case. But when you go and watch it back, you realize, hey, he kept the ball ticking. He was very good in retrieving the balls if they were loose. So, he was capable of keeping us rolling on that right-hand side. What he didn't do enough of was really, take it to his opponent. But in the second half, like I said, very good movement for that goal. Should give him confidence. And I hope with a few more games and, a few more better performances, we should see a more confident version of him.
Yeah, that is the hope. And you could see the relief in his celebration as well. Like, it meant a lot. And he is fully Spurs. I still couldn't believe that he wanted to join us as opposed to kind of going back to Juventus in the summer. Like, he was fully committed to us right from the jump. Yeah, I think just given a bit more time, he should look a bit sharper. Should be able to show some of his qualities that he did show us on his initial period in Conte, and then hopefully we can subsidize that with a good rotation option if it doesn't work out in the next few hours. But yeah, we'll see what happens there. But yeah, solid 2-0 win from us on the weekend. Obviously now we're on to the midweek Carabao Cup second round away fixture to Fulham. Yeah, we've subsequently gone out on penalties. Ange made 9 changes to the team that played against Bournemouth. Yeah, Tobes, I want to come to you because obviously there's a lot of outrage as to how we've been treating cups over, I guess, the past few years, justifiably or not. Ange making 9 changes felt like it felt like he continued the theme of previous managers, even though obviously it's a different play style. But how did you feel about how he approached the game, and did you have much stock in our performances in the Carabao Cup in the first place?
I do feel like he didn't approach this game with the seriousness that I thought he would, because in his pre-match presser, he did signal that he was going to make some changes, of course, right? But he also spoke on his importance of the game, right? He spoke on his importance. He's made some quotes like he doesn't even care about if the game was to be played in a car park or something like that. He wants to win, right? So I felt like even though he wanted to win, right, I don't think he picked the team that was capable of fully getting the job done. And that was emphasized by the subs that he made in the second half. I feel like whilst he didn't have to play the exact same team he played against Bournemouth, I felt like it was one too many changes, right? Starting that game, like one of Maddison or Basuma had to play. They had to play. right? I got no qualms with him changing the entire front three. He wants to give Richarlison some confidence, obviously. And obviously Solomon and Perisic, they hadn't started a single game for us so far. So I had no qualms there. But I felt the key cog for me so far has been in the key cogs in the midfield, right? All three have played well, but Basuma's been man of the match twice, and Maddison was man of the match once. I felt one of them had to start, right? The midfield that he played in the end was just not good enough. Let's be real; it wasn't good enough to be as penetrative as we needed it to be against Fulham. Lo Celso, Højbjerg, Skip. You lot know my thoughts on Skip in this 8 role. I don't fancy him there at all. I think he's a bang average 6. I'll be real. I think he's not good enough on the ball. I'd have nothing against Skip, but it's just you have to know your player's limitations. He's not a good ball player, right? He's not good on the ball. So Skip playing in this 8 role, it's never going to fly for me. And then Højbjerg, we know how disastrous he can be in his passing. He can be so erratic. Him playing as the 6, so destabilizing to the team, right? So on and off the ball, his passing was careless. Off the ball, his positioning was careless. So there's no one in that midfield who's actually going to get Spurs control of the game. So I feel like, for me, he got it wrong there. You had to bring in Maddison or Basuma to exercise a little bit more control of the game, right? The defense, okay, cool. Yeah, Emerson Royale, I didn't really have an issue with. Ben Davies, I knew he was going to come into the team. But me personally, I would have preferred to keep the starting 2 centre-back partnership. Davinson Sanchez is not good enough for Tottenham. I don't care what job he did against Brentford. He's not good enough for Tottenham, and he's on his way out. So for me, the manager, he'll learn from this. He'll learn from this, but it's disappointing. It's disappointing, and I understand fan frustration. I was frustrated too, because it's like, what was one of the aims for most fans at Spurs this season? What was it? To have good cup runs. Last year, we went out under disgraceful circumstances across both cup competitions. So the hope was that, okay, fine, we're not in Europe this season, so let's try and put our stock into the League Cup and the FA Cup. Let's try and go for it. And it felt like we didn't really go for it with that lineup. So it's disappointing, man. Getting bounced out of the second round is disappointing in a cup where you know that if you win 4 or 5 games, you're in the final. It's not. We got to do better. Andrew's got to do better, and the team's got to do better.
Yeah, because obviously there was a lot of fallout after we went out. Saying obviously we didn't take the cup competition seriously. A lot of fans have pushed back and said that's another reaction. I side more with the neglect of the cup being a kind of valid reaction more, as it is obviously a good opportunity. It's not the most ideal draw, given that it's the most preliminary round we could have played of a trophy which isn't considered a major trophy by most of football, but it's still a good opportunity for us to kind of actually make a better showing of ourselves. And I think, yeah, like you say, 9 changes, yeah, probably too many. I think Forster's cooked. Thought that even before the game, thought that at the end of last season. But I think you can get away with making the rest of the changes as long as if it's going badly, like obviously we were losing 1-0. I think the latest you should be making substitutions to change the game is probably like on the hour, 60th minute, like we did against Bournemouth. Bring one of Basuma or Maddison on at that stage, probably Basuma, because Maddison was an injury risk before Bournemouth. And then try and get yourself a good footing back into the game like that. But we made a sub at halftime. Apparently it was injury related for Lo Celso, but he was horrible anyway. For Dane Scarlett, who's how old? Like 19. Hasn't really played first team minutes for Spurs either, and playing in an unfamiliar role. So it's a bit scattergunny. Didn't set a good precedent for me. And I agree with you as well, Tobes, on the Skip Højbjerg dynamic. I don't know why Højbjerg plays 6 over Skip. Skip, with his limitations on the ball, is at least disciplined off it and can cover ground. Helps out the defence. Højbjerg, as I alluded to earlier, I think he's a good 8. So yeah, like it just set a poor precedent for me.
Yeah, I just wanted to say before Yao comes in, I just wanted to say on that, like, we've seen Skip and Højbjerg play together, and it's not nice. We've seen them start together. It's not nice, right? And then when you add Lo Celso into that mix, that's a horrible cocktail. I'm sorry. It's a horrible cocktail, right? You know, Long Island iced tea? That is a rotten Long Island iced tea. You know, when they mix all the spirits. Think of the worst spirits available at your bar and you're mixing it together. That's the drink that we served up with that midfield. It was never going to work. Lo Celso as the creative hub, Højbjerg as the tempo setter in the midfield, Skip as the box-to-box. Come on, man. Come on. That midfield performance was gash, bro. Oh, my days. Rubbish. Absolute rubbish. So for me, Ange, you live and you learn, man. But unfortunately for him, we've been stung. Unfortunately for him and unfortunately for us, we've been stung. And that's a cup competition that we won't win this season.
Yeah, I didn't I didn't agree with one of his post-match quotes, which is like, well, how am I going to learn about my team if I don't use them? And it's like, well, you've still got Ryan Mason on your backroom team, and he's seen and known these guys close up. He may have misprofiled, and you wouldn't necessarily agree with some of his assessments, but I mean, the evidence is there. You've seen him on the touchline when Stellini was in charge, screaming, "Why are they doing that? Why are they doing that?" And it's the same midfield partnership. It's the same players who would let other managers down. So, yeah, maybe make some substitutions quicker at least. Obviously, we did make some in the end. The one after half-time didn't come until the 71st minute. Then we kind of made a triple substitution with Son, Kulusevski and Sarr coming on. And then Maddison didn't come on until the 82nd minute. This is bearing in mind that penalties happen straight away at full time. There's no extra time. So Maddison really only got like 10 minutes to influence things. Manor Solomon couldn't get in the game, unfortunately. But I want to touch on, I guess, a slightly positive note in that Richarlison took his goal quite well. Yeah, what did you think of that?
Yeah, I agree. He took his goal quite well. We don't care. That's just the truth of the matter. We don't give a flying crap. Yeah, he took his goal well. Doesn't mean a damn thing to us. Yeah, I do agree a lot with what Toby said in terms of like the amount of changes made. But there's something that Postman said regarding like how's he going to know his players unless he plays them? I want to say something that kind of might support his argument, but not fully. Yes, you are right that, yes, he can fall back on previous coaches and previous footage of these players from last season and seasons gone before. However, the style of play, the tactics are completely different. What you're asking these players to do is completely different. So outside of pre-season, which is a lesser intensity, you kind of have to give some of these players a run out. The problem I have with it, yeah, if I'm being brutally honest, is I don't think he got the pairing correct. So, you know, pairing Højbjerg and Skip, for me, I feel there's a misprofile in there. But the problem with that is Skip had a good preseason. As much as I don't want to admit it, he had a good preseason in that same role. But he played that role alongside Maddison and Bissouma. They basically carried him. You know, Perisic played in those games. Solomon played in those games. I think Richarlison stayed. No, he came on second half, so Kane started those games. But Skip was making a lot of like last man runs, and it was working. It was working really well in preseason, especially the game against Barcelona, which was a shocker because he managed to get 2 goals. You can't shackle him as limited as he is with Højbjerg. It's like I watched that game, and I know Toby was there. Probably finally the wall has released itself from his eyes. He can finally see people. Yeah, after all these years, months, decades of defending mediocrity, he can finally see the garbage in his Danish lover. And let me tell you this right now, I'm proud of Tobias. He's gone to AA meetings and he's finally admitted he is an alcoholic for the Danes. And I want him to definitely bite that bullet. Because what I'm about to say to you is frightening. There was at least in a 30-minute period, 6 passes made to Højbjerg in which he either gave it right back to the person that passed it to him, or he went backwards to another player in a defensive position. I promise you now, if I ever bump into Højbjerg, I'm going to deliver the most vicious elbow known to man. Because he is totally garbage on the footballing field. Absolutely garbage. You could have played that midfield with Sarr and Skip. We would have had a better shout. I promise you we would have had a better shout. But Højbjerg is levels of garbage I've never seen in my life before. I never want to see this guy. I know he's probably going to stay past the window. But once he's gone, I never want to hear from him. I never want to see a photo of him. I don't want to see if I see him on a computer game, I'm going to delete him off it. He is garbage. Absolutely garbage. But we did get back into the game. I don't think we've done enough to win it, if you want my honest opinion. And unfortunately, I'll be honest with you, I'm not even mad at the defeat because we went out on penalties. Penalties is a lorry, you know. Outside of that, you know, it wasn't a great performance. Big Mike, I do see you saying chill. He's really not that bad. No, Big Mike, he's garbage. He's garbage. He's garbage, Big Mike. No, Big Mike, listen to what I say. He's not even garbage. No, you're right. Actually, you're right, Big Mike. I should chill. He's shit. That's what he is. He's a piece of trash. But I'd like to turn over to the honourable gentleman, Tobias, in his gele.
So I think with Højbjerg, I feel like he yeah, we need to sell him. I'll be real. Like I like, you know me, I like Højbjerg, but you just have to accept that when someone's just not good enough. Like this whole role of him coming on and seeing out the game, yeah, I could get with that. I've been pitching that. That was what I was pitching last season. Not so much coming off the bench, but Basuma and Benton Corby the starters and Højbjerg be the rotation piece. That's what I was pitching last season. That's what I was comfortable with. But at this point, it's just like he's got 2 years left in his deal. He's going to be 28 years old and he's not good enough to start. Let's just sell him. Like, if I'm being totally honest, I don't think he's our worst midfielder. Genuinely, I don't think he's our worst midfielder. I think the worst midfielder at Spurs is Oliver Skip. I genuinely believe that. Because I feel like Skip is by far the most limited of all the midfielders we have on the ball. And if we're playing a possession-based style, we need someone who's stronger in possession, right? I feel like with Skip, he can only play as a 6 in this setup. And when he plays as a 6, right, he can't evade pressure the way Basuma can. He can't evade it to a good enough standard. And his use of the ball is very, very, very pedestrian. So Skip, I'm content with him staying right now, but we can't have too many of these guys, right? Skip is, you're homegrown, you're young, so you're gonna be kept. Cool, I can accept that. Don't really rate the player high, but I can accept that, right? Højbjerg, you're not young, you're not homegrown. What evidence and reason is there to keep you when we know that you're not good enough to start? That midfield that we played against Fulham, it's worrying because it tells us that when we don't have our A-grade midfield available, it's a big problem. And right now, Ben 10, we don't know how he's going to come back. We don't know how he's going to come back. But when he does come back, let's just say that he comes back, well, hypothetical. We're basically saying that we can only rely on one midfielder outside of our best midfield 3 right now to do a job consistently. Because I can't say to you, I can hang my hat on Oliver Skip right now. I can't. And I damn sure cannot hang my hat on that piece of poo that is Giovanni Lo Celso. I can't. I cannot. So now we're saying we have 3 midfield spots, right? And there are only 4 midfielders who are reliable enough, in my opinion. Nah, man. It's not good. It's not good. Something's got to change. And if that means selling Højbjerg this window, sell him. Sell him. Honestly, the game ain't based on sympathy. Sell him. Like, it's not that deep. I'll go watch him at Atletico Madrid. I'll wish him all the best at Atletico Madrid. But right now, sell him. Sell him. Simple.
Yeah, fair enough. I will give him his dues. He had a good role in our goal. To be fair, he managed to thread a good ball through the lines to Son, who put it to Perisic. Perisic, good ball in. Richarlison, good finish. I hope it sets him on a good way. To summarise that, yeah, we lost on penalties. And I just want to touch on Sanchez quickly. I'll quickly skip through it. I think he didn't perform well in the game, but why he was in the position to take the 3rd penalty, like that will have to be be something that maybe some of the team might have to explain. I don't think his penalty was even terrible, but yeah, it was a good save. And unfortunately, we didn't have a good enough keeper to be able to save penalties on the night either.
Let me say something on that.
On Sanchez or
no,
the
on the
Forster?
goalkeeper. Forget the penalty. I've seen ballers miss penalties. Yeah, forget that. Let me say something about the goalkeeper. This Fraser, big man. Pause. At some point in your life, you have to look left or use your left side. I don't understand. Every penalty that got taken, man just fell to the right, fell to the right, fell to the right. So what you telling me, raw? If man wants to just get by you and say hello to your wife, all I have to do is step to your left because you can't catch me. What kind of nonsense is this? Most of Fulham's penalties weren't even that great. They were just rolled in. Man just fell. Like this was his actual emoji. He looked like this. Just to the side. Head broken. Listen, Fraser, you're a goalkeeper, bro. Find your battles, bro. Dive left, dive right. Fam, how hard is it? Man was letting the goals in like he was facing his child. I don't even allow my child to score past me. What kind of nonsense is this? Be a man. and hey, Fraser cannot be on another penalty shooter again. My God. I've never seen anything that bad in my life.
Yeah, he just can't save the hard and low ones. He cannot get down quick enough. And that's just a symptom of his frame, his age. And it's been evident for a good while now. And like Sai says, Forster is replaceable to the right and to the right. Speaking of moving on and maybe even bringing in, who knows? There's currently just a few hours left of the transfer window, or good 5-6. I don't even know what time it closes, but it's nearly 6 p.m. on the 31st at a time of streaming and recording now, and there's so many things in motion. Højbjerg, which was obviously alluded to before, looks like he'll be going to Atletico Madrid with like a loan with a obligation of 40 million. Don't know how he swindled that.
Make it happen, Simeone.
I like how you're happy, but is Gallagher an upgrade? Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. Please talk about.
Absolutely not. He's not. He's not an upgrade.
Please.
And we'll talk.
Please talk about another player. Please.
Okay, yeah. Because I was just gonna say I think he's probably a more mobile, disciplined, just a homegrown version of Højbjerg. But I guess he's technically not as good as Højbjerg in the final third for me. Moving on. I mean, there's so many names who could potentially leave the club in the span of a few hours. I don't know how many members of staff that are working on this behind the scenes because they've not been on shift all summer. But you got like Ndombele, Sanchez, Lloris, Tanganga, Hill, and Reguilon all potentially getting moves. Scarlett's just gone to Ipswich. Big up Scarlett. I think that's a really good move for him. But I mean, what do we think about the rest? Like Reguilon looks very, very close to going on loan to Manchester United. That's got to be a good one, surely.
Yeah, I think. Listen, all the abuse. I know we'll talk on Fatty, but all the abuse I've got from Fatty so far, right? Hold that, Man United. Hold that expeditiously, right? Hold that, Regulardon. That's what they used to call him, Regulardon. Fine, cool. Regulardon's going to be starting for Man United against Arsenal at the Emirates against Bukayo Saka. Boy, it ain't easy. It ain't easy. So I'm happy with that one, and I hope that he doesn't disgrace himself too bad at Man United, so that teams can buy Reguilon next summer. And I'll be honest, for me, my preference was to keep Reguilon over Ben Davies. I would rather Reguilon as backup over Davies, but I understand it. Davies is a bit more stable defensively, even though he doesn't really have much going forward. So I get it, man. It is what it is. The Højbjerg one, I'll be real. If we're able to get a loan with an obligation for £40 million, that's a W. That's a big W. Big W. My concern, however, is what we're willing to do with that money, right? Because Conor Gallagher, for me, is not an upgrade on Højbjerg, and I don't mean that. In fact, I do mean that. I mean that a lot, right? When I look at the caliber of midfielders, they are both mid-level midfielders, right? The difference is Højbjerg operates in deeper zones of a football pitch, whereas Gallagher, for me, has shown that he's at his best when he's as close to goal as possible. With Conor Gallagher, we've explained this before, like you can see him. I don't actually think he's a bad Premier League player. I don't. I think he's bad in terms of the standard that you see at top 6 clubs that are in terms of starts, right? But if you're asking me, do I think he's a bad Premier League player? I don't. I think he's a decent Premier League player. Like, he's got an eye for goal. I feel like he's a lot more agile than Højbjerg, and I feel like he off the ball. Obviously, we know that he presses like a mad dog, right? Which is why sometimes the jibe on him is, oh, he's just a dog running around. But like, he has got crazy high energy levels. So like, I can sort of see why Ange wants him. Ange wants to obviously use him as this 8, who basically deploy him in the role that he's deploying Skip. And let's be honest, he would do that role way better than Skip, because he's better than Skip, right? He's a better goal scorer, better with the ball at his feet under pressure. He's just better. But for me, Conor Gallagher exhibits similar drawbacks with Højbjerg, in the sense where he can be quite careless in possession, and he just isn't that technically sound. So when we're trying to be a team who wants to keep the ball, maintain pressure on the opposition, why do we want someone who fundamentally isn't good at these things? Why? And then when you look at the midfielder we're losing the midfielder who operates in the deeper part of the midfield. We're then adding to a position that we already stocked in. We already have Sar that's playing that role. And when Bentancur comes back, he's probably going to play that role as well, like he was under Antonio Conte when we played a 3-man midfield. So we're adding to that role, even though we only have Basuma playing in the 6th role. Basuma goes to AFCON in January. We know that Oliver Skip to Basuma is a significant downgrade. Why are we not prioritizing a midfielder who can be more why are we not prioritizing more of a controller? Why are we not doing that?
Do you think Bentancur can play 6?
He played 6 for Juventus. He had one season there when he played 6 for Juventus. I think he's got the press resistance that Basuma has. I feel like Bentancur could do what Basuma's doing now. Maybe not to the same extent, but for me, I feel like Bentancur was showing that he could do a whole range of things in the 8, right? So it's an option. Listen, I don't think Conor Gallagher fundamentally is the type of midfielder that Spurs should be signing. I feel like we can just get better. Like, the money that you're willing to spend on Conor Gallagher, you simply can get a better midfielder. You just can.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like someone like Kefren Turam is quite gettable. I think maybe approximately 10, 15 more million you can get Eze from Palace.
Fam.
But
Chuck 10, 15 million. You can get chuck 10, 50 million, and you can chance Nottingham Forest's arm for Morgan Gibbs-White. You can chance Crystal Palace's arm for Eze. There's other midfielders out there, bro. Like, why does it have to be Conor Gallagher? Like, and when I say these things, I don't say it to pretend like he's the worst midfielder ever. Like, I completely get where Ange is coming from, but come on, bro. You can get better, and everyone knows it.
But yeah, you do definitely make a good point on what our kind of midfield pool is going to look like at AFCON, and it looks very, very thin.
If I'm being honest with you, yeah, I think you have to really take on board that I've got a strong feeling Bentancur does go into the 6. Maddison plays the 8, Sarr alongside him, or Skip or Lo Celso or whoever the new signing is. I think the backup 6, if needed, of course, when Basuma goes. Actually, no, Sarr will be going as well. So the backup 6, I think, is going to be Bentancur, which is fine. You know, in fact, if I'm being brutally honest, in the games that I've seen, I believe that Maddison has shown he can play in a more deeper role. So it could chop and change between him and Bentancur. And I think we can, maybe in the January window, we might have to definitely still look for an actual 6. But I think we can survive till then without one or without a backup necessarily to Basuma. You know, all things hopefully going in our way. Where my problem is we don't have a backup or another centre-back. I'm frightful of that. I'm extremely scared of anything wrong going in that department and us having to fall back on Dyer because he hasn't gone yet. I'm frightened. So I want to see some bomber Ross Clarks tomorrow or today. I want to see a madness. I want to see, I don't know. Oh, Spurs have resurrected Maldini's career and have offered 70 million to AC Milan. I want to see a crazy transfer in the last 2 days because listen to me, good people. Daniel Levy still doesn't have a cut on his face. I don't understand this. Owen, I don't understand this. I really do not understand this. Levy is walking around fresh face, fresh bowled. Nobody has chopped his eye, not once. Nobody's chopped the left cheek, not once. I don't understand what's going on over here, people. He has gained money, he has stadium revenue, and I'm not seeing a bomber. I'm not seeing a crazy bomber, bruv. I need to see one in the next 2 days because I promise you, if I see him, it's going to be very political very fast. Because there's nothing Daniel... I've told people this. We could go on and do a madness in the next decade. That will not save Daniel Levy in my eyes. For what he's put us through in the last 23 years, there is nothing this guy can do to survive on these roads. Not a damn thing. So, ladies and gentlemen, please, those of you that are close to him in the stadium, raise your hand and give him one dirty chop to the temple of his forehead. Please, because this man is not spending the peas that we need him to spend. We have 2 centre-backs. Let me run through the squad so you guys really, really deep how mad this is. We have 1 goalkeeper. The rest are Qatar. They're rubbish. We have 1 left back. We're not going to talk about his backup. We have 2 right backs. I can run with that. We have 2 centre-backs. Everybody else after them in that department is the pits of hell. And we can the absolute pits of hell. We have 1 6, technically. A plethora of 8s and a free role player. We have 1 right winger because the other one is injured and currently in Spain. We have a versatile player from Palestine. We have Son on the left.
Wow. By the way.
Is it from... He's not from Palestine? Where's he from?
You know where he's from. You know damn well.
No, I'm asking genuinely. Where's he from?
Oh, right, Israel.
Oh, okay. Hey. God, glory and all that. Jesus. Yeah. From Israel. We got Son on the left. No real replacement from him, apart from Mana. And then we've got Richarlison. And I'm thinking, bruv, really and truly, we need 3. We actually need 3 between now and the end of the window. We need
This
a
is why I
centre-back,
wanted to touch upon this as well.
a striker, and arguably, no, we need another keeper.
This is why I've been critical with Levy,
Like,
even though I can be an apologist for him at times, right? But he's not really sorted this kind of head of football operations / director of football situation. So he's like, okay, let me take over for this summer until it's sorted out. Okay, and now you found us being unable to shift players who I'm sure we could get deals for a little bit, especially earlier. Like there's been little to no urgency with a lot of kind of football operation in this window outside of the Kane deal. I mean, I accept he's done well to get Maddison as well, but the lack of outgoings, like not even terminating Lloris's contract, insane. Facilitating Tanganga's loan move to Torino. Apparently that fell through because we couldn't agree terms. I don't understand how you can't agree loan terms to give a player a move whose development you've held back for probably going on like 3 years now. Like I'm not going to turn around and say, I mean, I used to think this, but I'm not going to turn around and say Tanganga has like a super high ceiling, but at least have a duty of care to your players and some self-awareness for the development who's you've hindered, right? So you've got other players who have had outgoings, you've had positions which need to be filled. You've put 3 centre-backs essentially up for sale. I forgot to touch upon this for the Fulham game, but Eric Dyer again didn't make a match day squad. And this is for a Carabao Cup game. So he's clearly up for sale. Apparently Bayern are even interested in having him on this list. Davinson Sanchez, no secret, he's up for sale, and Tanganga, who probably did okay in preseason, but again, he's definitely available for a move, whether it be permanent or a loan. But I don't really hear about anything in terms or in the way of a contingency plan for a replacement centre back coming in. It's all gone quiet on that side. I haven't heard Tapsoba's name in a few weeks. I imagine we'd sign someone who's a profile of a player who would accept probably be in rotation, but would still be an upgrade on that list of centre-backs which are up for sale. But it just seems like we're just so reactive. We're reacting to things which are potentially going to happen. Like if this player goes, oh, we might move for this player. If this player, it's too reactive for me with little to no urgency or no plan in this window. And that's my gripe with it. Tobes, you were going to chime in there?
Yeah, because and this is why I was like, yeah, you saw me losing my rag in the touchline chat, and it's like non-Spurs fans don't get that there is this is repetitive behavior, leaving shit so late into the window, and you might get lucky. You might get a lucky dip, and you might get a Kulusevski and Bentancur, or you might get a Gedson Fernandez, right? Or you might get nobody, right? The point is, we're leaving everything up to the last minute. So many issues. The Ansu Fati one is ridiculous for me. You're interested in him, get the deal done. I get the concerns people had about the wages, etc. But since when was it so bad to have a clearly talented player come in and do a job for you for one season whilst you get your ducks in a row in terms of who you want long term to play left wing? Because we know Son is not getting any better. He's getting worse, right? So we know that this is going to be a deal that is going to be short term. We know that. We know his wages are crazy. We know that he's going to go back to Barcelona. That's fine. If the talent is there, which it is, and you know that he can play left or right wing and can play through the middle, why would you not bring him? But apparently Spurs weren't really keen on him. Cool. Apparently, they're keen on Brennan Johnson. We've all spoken about Brennan Johnson here, right? We've spoken about Brennan Johnson. Yeah. With Brennan Johnson, again, not a bad player. Decent Premier League player. But not my cup of tea. I think Spurs can do better. But that's just my opinion. If the manager, Ange Postecoglou, said, this is my number one target. I need Brennan Johnson. Why are we still here on the 31st of August and Brennan Johnson is still not a Spurs player? Why? Centre-backs, Ange Postecoglou, after we signed Mickey van der Ven, he said we're looking to bring a couple more in. We're here, 31st of August. Bids for Davinson Sanchez from Rennes, rejected, too low. Loan bid from Burnley for Eric Dyer, rejected, too low. So you were willing to keep Eric Dyer as part of the team, even though you knew he wasn't going to play, but now you're saying that you don't want to lose him on loan to Burnley, knowing that he's got a year left on his contract. What are we doing here? What are we actually doing here? Genuinely, what are we doing here? Tanganga, the poor guy, been faffing about with his career for yonks, bro. For yonks, on the Conte and now on the Ange Postecoglou. Let the guy go. You don't want to use him, but yet you're asking for crazy exorbitant prices and fumbling terms and agreements. Let him go. You have no plan for him. Let the guy go and let him and take whatever you can get and let him go and play regular football elsewhere. It's been established that he's not good enough for Tottenham. So what are we doing here? 31st of August, the day before the window closes, Højbjerg still hasn't left. Obviously, we know he's been linked with Atletico. Højbjerg, Reguilon, Tanganga. Who else have I not mentioned? Davinson Sanchez, Eric Dyer. Who else am I missing? Brian Hill, Sessegnon, who are injured. We know that we're not going to be able to do anything with those guys right now. Like, just going back to the Fatty thing, like, even if Ansu Fati's turned down Spurs and stuff, right? Or he's been convinced more by De Zerbi's project than Ange's. Okay, whatever. If the club were doing things right, you could give them more grace that they miss out on a player like Ansu Fati. But you can't give these guys grace because it always seems like they just don't know what they're doing. They always fumble, right? We signed Mickey van der Ven, we've signed James Maddison, and I'm still not happy with this window. Why? 2 starters, in fact, 3 starters, Vicario as well. And I'm still not happy with this window. And I don't think anyone else is, because the deep issues at hand still haven't been solved.
Yeah, summarised well. I guess I'm about to bring someone up who's probably a little bit less down on their window than us. Just welcome to the stage, Natalie here. From the
Hi, everyone.
No Nay Never podcast.
I was enjoying that rant. I was really enjoying that rant. I was going, really? This is yeah. I'm all right. I'm not quite as stressed as you guys. I'm not gonna lie.
Wow, this is crazy, and that's coming from a Burnley fan. And so, boy.
Yeah. Just before we kick off, apologies for the visuals. I've had to join on my phone because I'm a little bit. I'm in the middle of a work meeting, so that's why I'm not as visually as nice in landscape. If I do it landscape, I don't know which camera I'm looking at, so apologies, I'm on my phone. But yeah, I'm not. Well, you say I'm not too stressed about our transfer window. We're in desperate need of a left back. We've been in desperate need of a left back since Ian Maatsen went back to Chelsea and hasn't come back to us. So yeah, that's definitely something that we need to look at. I think we probably need an out-and-out striker as well, rather than... Yeah, Natalie joined mid-sermon, I definitely did. Rather than... We've got an awful lot of £15 million tricky Belgian wingers from Anderlecht in our squad. The irony for Burnley, the Burnley that you knew of old basically never had any strikers for about 55 years, and now we've got nothing but strikers, which is quite impressive. But no, other than that, it's been a really impressive window. We've had 2 summer transfer windows where we've brought in volume of players. We are a young side. We're transitioning side. I guess if you wanted to be hypercritical, you'd look at Burnley's squad and wonder whether we've got enough experience in there to just steady the ship in this first year back, because it's all about survival this year to start trying to build again. But what we have bought is a lot of really exciting potential and very unstereotypically Burnley players, and I'm really excited to see. Even if we don't survive this year and we have to go back down into the Championship again, I'm really excited by this vision that our board have got for a very fluid style of play and a very European style of attacking football. It's great to watch.
Yeah, I agree, and it's good that we can kind of mirror that with another manager of ours, obviously leading up to the game, where I guess they're both from like the school of Pep, and we've both come from stereotypically bad ways of playing football, and still in that transition.
I was worse than yours. yeah. We take the mantle with that for sure. Don't you be shaking your head at me, my friend.
Ooh, I don't know about that.
I loved. We had Dashball for 10 years, and I love the guy as a legend, but we had Dashball.
He's quintessential ugly football. We understood. We understood what he was coming with. We get it.
Fair.
Yeah. Conte lied to us. He's a fraudster. Yeah, he's taking our money. Most of us are now broke in this cost of living situation because of Conte. He's stolen our money. And right now he's in Italy just enjoying the sun. I'm filming. My children are not eating because of what Conte did to my club.
That's quite comical, but I think at least you're quite right. At least we knew what we were signing up for, and at least we didn't try and pretend to be anything that we weren't. It was like, well, when you're playing 4-4-2 with Ashley Barnes up front and Sean Dash at the helm, you know what you're in for. Certainly not the same style of football that we've got under Vincent Kompany, I'll tell you that now. But it's an interesting development. And, we've got to be realistic. So many pundits and fan bases are saying, "Oh yeah, Burnley, they'll comfortably survive. They'll finish 10th, 11th. They might even finish top 10." No, we won't. We absolutely won't. There's every realistic expectation that we will go straight back down with Luton and Sheffield United. The league gets tougher every year. Some of the mid-table sides, look at how well Villa are doing this season. Some of those mid-table sides, Villa, Brighton, Brentford, are stronger than the mid-table sides used to be. So you've not got that middle bank of teams where you can hope to nick a point or 3 points away from where you wouldn't do normally. So we are, just because we absolutely demolished the Championship, and my God, was last year the best season of my life ever, it doesn't necessarily translate to, they're not transferable skills in the Premier League. It's a different kettle of fish. So what we have to be very aware of is that we're in a process and we're at the beginning of a new phase, and we've got new players who are all young, a new manager who's never managed in the Premier League before, and everybody's starting to build something. And sometimes it takes 2 or 3 years for that to come to maturity. And if that involves a couple of trips back down to the Championship, then so be it.
That's fair. And obviously, coming into the window, like you partially alluded to, you have spent about 100 million this window.
I know.
Far. And it looks like you're signing centre back from Benfica, Thomas Araujo.
Yeah, I believe so.
Much about him?
No, so I think that's one of the challenges that we've had over the summer as fan content creators, in that we seem to get linked with a different European player every single day, and you're hastily trying to do your research on them. They're very un-Burnley players. Normally we sign like experienced players from England and play in the Championship, so you know all about them and you don't have to do your research. We're having to actually work hard for our money this summer. But yeah, literally the vast majority of players we've been linked with this summer, we have known absolutely nothing about, never heard of them before, don't really know much about them. So I've learned over the summer to stop trying to chase every single rumour and produce facts and figures on each side. I'll just wait until they get through the door and then I'll do the research. I think that's the only thing that's going to keep me sane right now.
That's fair. And obviously we've got the game coming up on the weekend. And I can't say I've watched much of Burnley this season. I do know they have 0 points currently. Is that right? After 3 games? And
No, 2 games. 2 games. We've played a game less than everybody else.
Because the Luton game got postponed because it's meant to be at Luton's ground, which is obviously being refurbished. But I did see, obviously, you guys beat Nottingham Forest away from home the other day. So
last night in the cup.
Last night, yeah. So I feel like it's a little bit of a confidence booster for you guys. And I do think with Burnley, obviously outside of Luton, I think you've had a really rough start. Like playing Man City, playing Man City at home, and then playing Aston Villa at home, and now playing us. So you're basically playing 3 out of the top
And then
8
it's
teams
United.
in the Prem.
Then it's United after you.
So exactly. So
yeah.
4 out of the
We're
top.
going to be on
4 out of the
games,
top
no
8
points.
teams in the last. Yeah, exactly. So it's peak. It's peak, right? It's a tough start, but I do think at the very least, the reason why maybe you're not going to get top 10 in my opinion, but the reason why I'm not so like sold on Burnley getting relegated is because at the very least you're making an attempt to stay in the league. You're spending money, which is more than what you can say for Sheffield United. You took Sander Berg from Sheffield United.
What were they thinking?
Yeah, exactly. It's sold Bergen and Dyer as well, right? I feel like they've not really spent. I'm trying to remember the other team.
Luton haven't spent
Luton.
Yeah,
Luton haven't spent. So it's like for me, I'm seeing those sides going straight back down, which basically
they've taken
then
the money
means
and run.
Exactly. Which then means that there's one more spot similar to last season when I think it was like Leeds, Everton, Nottingham Forest, and
Leicester.
and Leicester basically fighting
and Forest.
And yeah, exactly for one spot. So I can see that happening this season, maybe with like Wolves, Burnley, and a few others, right? But it's going to be a dogfight. Exactly,
it's the same
it's gonna
sides.
Yeah, it's going to be a dogfight. But at the very least, you got to spend to survive in this league, and that's what Burnley are doing, which is something we've not seen before. So it'll be interesting.
We've never had the money before. You've heard about Daesh whinging a lot about the not being able to compete in the transfer window, and we haven't. We've spent 20-30 million in previous windows, which is massive for us. You can't please football fans, and hilarious. And now a vast majority of Burnley fans are now getting panicky about the money we are spending and wondering where it's coming from. It's like, you can't win. But you're absolutely right. Sheffield United and Luton have looked at the table, looked at their chances of succeeding, and have thought, well, we could spend 100 million and still go down. So they've banked the money, and they're obviously hoping to rebuild for another couple of seasons. Burnley came into this season in a little bit stronger position than those two. Luton have never been in the Premier League before, and Sheffield United had been down in the Championship for a couple of seasons before us. We'd gone straight back down and up again. We got relegated last season and came straight back up as champions. So we were in a stronger position to make that financial investment and kick on. You're absolutely right. I think there's probably 5 teams competing for one space. And as I said at the outset, it could easily be us, it could not be, but at least we are building something here. You're right, our start has been horrendous. I fully expect us to have played 4 games and got no points on the board. But let's flip that on its head. We've also got those games out of the way. We've played City, Spurs, United and Villa once. Some of our competitors around the bottom, particularly Everton, particularly Wolves, although Wolves did beat Everton, that's a slightly thing, but Forest, Luton, Sheffield United, they're also on either none or 1 point, having played 3 games, not 2, and of having played not the top side yet, playing the sides around them who they would be expecting to take points off. So at the moment, I think it's advantage Burnley because we've still got those sides to play. And last night we played Nottingham Forest. It was only a cup game. We played our second side and Forest played their first team, and we comfortably matched them all the way and nicked it at the end. So I'm feeling very confident. I think I would just urge caution to Burnley fans. Look at us where we have to after 5 or 6 games, having played some of the teams around us. If we start getting hammered actually Palace will probably be the first tough test, I think, because I now see Palace in that bracket of teams that are probably not going to get relegated, but we should be looking at trying to get some bonus points from. If we go to Palace and win, or we really compete against them, I think we'll be absolutely fine. If we start getting hammered off Fulham, Bournemouth, Palace, maybe Brentford as well, who I don't think are quite there in terms of Brighton and Villa yet, then I'll start to worry. But I think for now, we've played 2 games against 2 sides I expect to be in the top 6 or pushing for the top 6 in Villa's case. So let's not panic. It's a long old season, 36 games left.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just looking ahead to this weekend, then, right? I wanted to get your point of view on how Burnley are going to set up, because I think, and I'll speak on Spurs later when I get Yao's point of view, right? But just want to understand how Burnley are going to set up, just to actually anticipate where Spurs have to watch out for and what are the sweet spots for Tottenham. Because I did watch your post-match reaction, after the Aston Villa game, and it seemed as if Burnley were sort of playing like a higher aggressive press, and I feel like with players like Maddison and Basuma who can spin out of danger quite well, I feel like
we're dead.
yeah.
I think that's really right. And yeah, you're absolutely right. That's exactly how we analysed it. We've been playing a really high press, and that's the game we played all last season. And when Villa scored their first goal at the weekend, Connor Roberts, who's our right back, was playing some kind of central midfield role. He was halfway up the pitch. He turned in from the wing, and the minute he came inside, he lost possession, and we knew we were in a whole world of pain. You can't, if you're going to get one of your wing backs to come in central, you can't give away possession. You're so vulnerable when that happens. And at the time that happened, the only two players that we had in our half were our two centre halves, and that Aston Villa midfield ripped us apart, and it took them just 8 minutes to score the first goal. We need to be. That worked in the Championship because the sides that we were playing against were a lot weaker than we were, and we could very much take advantage of that. We don't have the physicality in central midfield, and we don't have the experience at centre. And also, we haven't yet got a settled five at the back, and we haven't yet picked our best formation in terms of the defence. We haven't yet decided whether we're playing 4 or 5 at the back, and I kind of feel like Company might have used the first 2 games as a little bit of an experiment, as free hits. So what I would like to see us do is learn from that and realise that you can't be that naive in defensively and press that high. You have to sit back a little bit, even if it means sacrificing a little bit of your DNA in terms of how you want to play. You've just got to tighten up a little bit. As you saw in the second half, though, there was a 15-minute spell, the first 15 minutes in the second half, where we gave Villa a fright. We pulled one back and really dominated the game and really made them work for it. Whether or not we'll be able to replicate that again on Saturday, I don't know. We do have goals in us, and we have attacking players. So I think when you say about what you should be looking out for, don't come to Burnley expecting to see a 4-4-2 and 11 players defending for their lives. That isn't the football we play anymore. So I suspect there's probably our what's the word I'm looking for? Not secret weapon, but our advantage will be the element of surprise, in that we definitely are an unknown entity because you don't know how we're going to play. Watch for Lyle Foster. He came to us in January last year and had a very uneventful second half of the season. I genuinely think somebody might have kidnapped the Lyle Foster we saw last season and brought somebody else in disguise, because this ain't the same player we saw last year. But he's proven himself to be a nuisance. And watch, there's a young lad called Amdouni, who is a real cracking player, and he was the guy who scored last night, and he's proven himself to be a bit of a handful as well. Other than that, I don't really know. We had 3 injuries last night. That was quite a big problem in the Forest game. Luckily for us, we played our second side, but it does leave us a little bit short on defenders. We still don't have a left back, so I can't really give you much away yet as to who you can expect to see in defence. But you'll probably see a central midfield of Josh Cullen and Sanderberg. You'll probably have then a front 4 of Manuel Benson, Amdouni, Foster, and probably Colio Shaw, young lad from Italy, he's maybe looking a little bit light for now. So I think you'll see them in the middle and an attacking 4, and then your guess is as good as mine. The one question mark, I guess, will be on the keeper. We signed James Trafford, the under-21 keeper, England under-21 keeper from City in the summer. He's been widely tipped to take over from Pickford as number 1. He's not quite convinced me yet. Difficult to judge playing a Villa attack and a City attack, but he's been a little bit exposed for me and not quite looked there yet. I'm tempted to put Muric back in. He was our keeper of last season. He's pure Hollywood, is this guy. He likes to tackle centre forwards in his own box. He plays as a sweeping midfielder at some points if he gets bored in his box and wants to go out on a run. He also megs players in his box as well because he just thinks it's funny. But I would like to see him start just to see whether or not we can shore up that defence a little bit. But other than that, listen, your guess is as good as mine.
Listen, Natalie, thank you for that. I know you've obviously got
Yeah,
got to jet.
I need to.
But before you go, sorry, just wanted to pin you on a score prediction
Sure.
before you go.
Okay. This is going to sound ridiculous. I can't not back my boys. I can't. So I'm going to say we're going to nick it 2-1.
Okay, cool, fair. No worries. No need to apologize. Back your boys all you want.
I can't not
no
do
worries.
it. I can't not do it.
Thanks for the insight, Natalie.
No,
much
my pleasure.
appreciated.
Best of luck for the season, guys. See you later.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Cheers. So yeah, back to you, Aaron.
Yeah. Very knowledgeable Natalie was. I'm not sure I agree with the score prediction, but it's not beyond the realms of possibility, I guess. Like I was just going to say, like I watched them versus Man City because it was the curtain raiser and it's the first bit of football in ages, and I thought they sustained pressure well in parts. They just didn't seem to have that kind of cutting edge. They seemed to press well. But I think who is Lloyd Kelly, by the way? Did he used to play for Spurs or something? I've seen a few people in the comments.
Because he's Bournemouth's left centre back. Can play left centre back, play left back. Spurs are considering going in for him.
Oh, that's the transfer news that has happened. Yep. So I thought there would be something that would happen while we were on stream. I did not expect it to be that. Okay, that's annoying. I think we'll win against Burnley 2-0. Just as a shift to a score prediction, I think we are going to be overdue a reaction after going out in the cup. I think our quality from our first 11 should and pushing the boat out for a third league clean sheet in a row. But yeah, I think it'll be a good 2-0.
I don't know. I can see us. I don't know why, but I can see us conceding in this game. But I think we're going to win the game. I'm going to go for a similar scoreline to Aston Villa last season. Last week. I'm going to go for 3-1 to Spurs to win this game. I feel like from what Natalie mentioned, they're going to treat the game the same way Bournemouth did last week, where they're going to incorporate an aggressive high press. And I feel like we've got players now who can play under that pressure across all parts of the pitch: the goalkeeper, the centre backs, the full backs, and the midfielders, right? So they're the ones who really and truly will be responsible for trying to work their way out of Burnley's high press. And if we can do that, then I feel like we can pick them off, man. I've not watched any of their games. I've seen highlights, but I've seen that he has been mixing it up with a 3 and a 4. And they're still not really sure on who they're playing in that back line, whereas I feel like our team is a lot more settled than theirs at the moment. So yeah, man, I'm gonna go for 3-1 win to Spurs. I feel like we gotta win this game we gotta win this game before the international break, because I feel like the set of games we have after the international break, it ain't easy at all.
Lovely. And this is probably the longest I've ever heard Yao on mute in my time hosting any of the New Spurs or the podcasts. So Yao, you've had a little while to collect your thoughts. Yeah, what's on your mind, brother?
I'm gonna be brutally honest with you. This Lloyd Kelly thing is a madness, yeah. And I'm not gonna lie to you. If I find out who's responsible for this, it's gonna be a dark night for them, boy. So listen, I don't like that one bit. But what I will say with Burnley is I feel like, yes, we should go into that game with confidence. I did watch their first game against Manchester City. I don't think they really gave City a problem. I feel like City caused more their own issues as opposed to Burnley really causing them a problem. I do see our style of play being capable of breaking down their style of play. There is a goal in there for them, I'll be honest with you, because, I feel like because we're quite expansive, it does offer up some opportunity to teams. But to be fair to our setup, we have looked relatively measured defensively albeit, you know, the Brentford game, I think a lot of players were nervous in that first game, and the Man United game, outside of probably one or two opportunities, I don't really feel Man United fashioned some real dangerous chances. Whereas against Bournemouth, I feel like we had large amounts of control. You know, most of their really dangerous opportunities came from outside of the box. So I think we can definitely win this game. I want to say comfortably. I do think there is a goal in there for them. So I'd say 3-1. I don't know who's going to get the goals, but I'm happy that people are sharing them around.
Fair enough. I think that's a good summary of and a good movement onto the outro of the pod. Obviously, thank you, Natalie, again, if you listen back to this, for joining. It's very knowledgeable on Burnley. Great guest. Thank you guys for joining us in this nice afternoon pod. Tobes, Yao, and myself signing out, and we'll see. Catch us on Instagram, New Spurs Order, TikTok, New Spurs Order. We've been active on there now as well, and the audio form of this podcast will be out every Saturday morning. But for now, peace. Come on, New Spurs.
Peace.
In a bit.